Hi, everybody. I'm Richard Sher, and it's time to square off. What we have for you today. Let's meet our panel. Former Republican delegate, Pat McDonough. Our spiritual leader, the fabulous pastor, Shannon Wright from Maryland. Distinguished attorneys. We have Tom Minkin, and we have Chris Kennedy. And that's your panel for this week. Tell your friends. We are located at squareoff.net. Squareoff.net. Well, the crucial presidential square-off stage is now set. Republicans Donald Trump, his running mate J.D. Vance, versus Democrats Vice President Kamala Harris and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. Pat, the stage is set. What is your take on the four candidates?
Well, first of all, we're familiar with Donald Trump and to some extent J.D. Vance. The Democrat ticket is now the most radical left ticket ever on the national presidential scene. And also, it has established, I think this is very interesting, it has established the Democrat Party as more of a socialist-leaning party, because even if Kamala and this guy Walz, Governor Walz, if they both lose, they will still be in charge of the Democratic National Committee, and they will name all the positions and raise all the money, and they're both on the socialist side, and that's the direction the party's going to go in.
Mr. Kennedy.
Yeah, so I want to claim the copyright on this because it's very possible that this election could be a waltz in the park. Get your shirts. No, seriously. I think the Republicans and Trump in particular are really struggling for not only message discipline, which seems to be Trump's problem every time, and as we reach the fall before an election, but also trying to paint Kamala Harris and Tim Walz in a negative light. And it's hard to do because they're both very likable people. And I think Trump's very frustrated, which is why he's holed up in Mar-a-Lago yelling at his staff and probably interviewing a lot of potential staff members, maybe old staff members. I think that this is going to turn out to be where the Democrats finally are switching from a policy approach to a personality approach. And they're borrowing that actually from Trump. And this is how I think they're going to succeed, with the personality approach, not the policy approach. And I think they're just going to keep arguing that this is about preserving democracy over autocracy. And I think they're going to be successful in a very close race.
We'll do Shannon, then we'll do Tom Minkin. Shannon.
So I hear you on some of this, but I'm a little confused. We're looking at a Democratic ticket where no voter has voted for either of them. That's number one. So it seems to me it's left kind of a bad taste in a lot of folks' mouth about not having any ability to weigh in. That's number one. I understand there's some questions about Mr. Walz right now. And I gotta say, my biggest issue right now is I looked at Kamala Harris's event in Georgia, I believe it was. I'm a Black woman, in case y'all hadn't realized. So if we have the potential for the first Black woman president, and she feels a need to have Megan Thee Stallion come out and twerk, I got a problem with that. I got a problem with how that plays on the national stage. I got a problem with how that plays on the global stage. And I got a problem with anybody that's read a Bible, a Torah, or a Quran that understands what some of the key signs are of the end of those books. Come on now, what are we saying and what are we doing?
Very good, very good. Tom Minkin, good to see you again. What's up?
Thank you, Richard. Well, you know, we're watching the same show over and over again to the extent that I can only repeat what I've said numerous times over the last 5, 6, 7 years. I will never cease to be amazed at how many people in this country find it okay to vote for an obvious malignant narcissist, pathological liar, draft dodger, and you name the rest of it. You know, and to listen to very intelligent people talk about it, and yet not grasp who it is that they're advocating for is literally unbelievable to me. But obviously, a lot of people are persuadable or, in fact, loyalists to this kind of group. Now, the only other thing I'd say is I was rather amused when Pat said that we know a lot about J.D. Vance. Well, maybe you do, but given the fact that the guy has been in politics for less than 2 years, it's hard to, and this, by the way, is his first job in politics. That's hard to follow versus a guy named Walls who has a lifetime of public service in every aspect of government.
Right, Pat, you want to respond to Tom?
Oh, yeah. J.D. Vance served 4 years in the Marine Corps honorably, worked his way into Yale Law School, and was the head of the Journal. Has a lot of accomplishments in life, came from a very poor family. Now, Kamala, there's the problem. You know, out of 100 people that were on her staff during 4 years, 93 resigned and quit because she's such a nasty person and so unfriendly to the people she has. That was in the Wall Street Journal. And I mean, what has she accomplished? As was just mentioned, the fact is she hasn't gotten one vote. She ran for president in the Democrat Party primary, and she was the first one out the door. She's accomplished nothing. She's a radical lefty. She's worse. She's a lot worse than Bernie Sanders. I mean, Bernie Sanders supported her and supported Governor Walz.
Let me say this. We have some new polling numbers from NPR, PBS News, and Marist survey that this came out yesterday, showing Kamala Harris with a 51 to 48% lead over Donald Trump nationally. But the most striking and wild swing is among the critical voting bloc, and that's, of course, the independents. Harris is up 9 points with that group, 53 to 44, after being down 14 points with independents when she launched her campaign 2 weeks ago. All right, so
Quinnipiac and Wall Street had her at 1 point behind Trump at the beginning of her campaign, and she now dropped back 4 points, almost 5 points, along with Joe Biden. So you got different polls. I have no concern at all. I think once the American people look at her record and look at Walz's record, they're not going to take them because they're not middle of the road. They're way out in left field. They're worse than Bernie Sanders.
Oh, really? No filibustering today. Chris, I see you're ready to speak.
Well, listen, if things were so well, Trump wouldn't be hiding in Mar-a-Lago and going off the rails, claiming that he had bigger crowds than Martin Luther King in the same place, which was actually a different place, completely different location in DC. But what scares the hell out of Trump and J.D. Vance is that the new realignment of this Democratic ticket shows that you've got a woman of color who's a woman's rights advocate going up against the guy who took away 50 years of Roe versus Wade, a young, energetic woman of 59 versus an old guy at 78 whose dementia is kicking in more and more, which is why they're getting him off the road. And most importantly, a former prosecutor who had great success as the California Attorney General before she became a US Senator, going up against a convicted felon. All right. And the one policy thing that they're going for, the Republicans, is the border deal, because because that's been their money issue for many years, the southern border. And yet Trump killed that issue for them. He killed it earlier this year. Those conservative senators in the Senate, Langford, spent 3 months with Chris Murphy cutting out a deal that is GOP friendly. And the GOP was ready to vote on it. It was going to be one of the best border deals that we've ever had. In fact, it's been decades since we've had one. But Trump killed it because he knew it would make Biden look good and him look bad. So 330 million Americans have suffered from that. There is nothing to say about the border. That one substantive issue was taken away by Trump killing the border deal.
All right, after an hour-long news conference, This happened Thursday at 2 o'clock Eastern time. The news conference was held at Mar-a-Lago. Donald Trump announcing that he and Kamala Harris have agreed to a debate. I'm sorry to cover that little thing. Sorry. They've agreed to a debate. This will happen on September 10th. Will happen on ABC. Trump has also asked for 2 other debates, one on Fox, one on one of the other networks. Now there's only the September 10th ABC News debate on the books for now. So people will finally get a chance to hear from Kamala if they don't before that. Are you all excited about the debate? Tom?
I'd be a lot more excited about it and a lot happier with 3 debates if simultaneously they had a fact checker listening to Trump and the American public were able to judge for themselves exactly who is running for office and who was in office. And I'm not sure what the number is. I think it was 5 or 6, 7,000 lies that were demonstrated he made in the 4 years he was in office. It's all part of the bigger picture to me. And I refuse to believe that the American people would seriously consider voting for this guy. Given his history, what he's done to the country, it's a disaster waiting to be finished off. Should, God forbid, he be returned to office.
He did have tens of millions of voters.
80 million. Yeah,
Thank you.
80 million people are crazy, according to Tom. Maybe Tom's seeing the wrong person. Maybe Tom is wrong. There's a lot of people in this country who support Trump, and they go show up at all the events. And there are things he did. He defeated ISIS. He had gasoline under $2. He had no inflation. He took Israel and he put the capital in Jerusalem. He started the Abraham Accords. He's done many things. He had wages up for Blacks, women, and Hispanics. They live in a fantasy world. They talk about Trump did this, Trump did that. Things were great under Trump. We didn't have inflation. We didn't have $3, $4, $5 gasoline. I mean, where are these people, on Mars or something?
Well, no, they're right in Maryland, or some of them.
Same thing.
Chris, what is it?
Yeah, so if we're rattling off a list about Trump, let's add some items to the list. 91 indictment counts. Said he'll become a dictator on day 1. He'll use the FCC to remove any TV networks that aren't yielding to his favor. He'll hold multiple frequent deportation raids to remove 11 million people. He'd impose a tariff on all imported goods, close the U.S. Department of Education, remove Obamacare without a replacement, impose a new Muslim ban, make multiple tax cuts for the uber wealthy, let red states prosecute women who violate abortion bans, pardon all the January 6th convicts, and potentially end our democracy in favor of autocracy.
He never said any of that stuff, and you know it, Tom. That's just
I didn't say it. No, I'm adding.
No,
to
that's
the
your
list.
talking
I'm
point
adding
from
to
the
the list, my
Democrats.
friend.
No,
Okay?
that's
You've
Democrats
got your
who
list.
talk-
I've
No,
got
you're
my
wrong.
list. Okay,
You're wrong, and
none
you
of
know
what
you're
I
wrong.
just said was wrong.
You're
tell me
wrong,
one
and
thing
you
on that
know it.
list that's wrong.
Seems like we
know
need
it,
a
You
and
can
fact
you're
lie,
checker
you
wrong.
can
here.
tell me one item on that list.
You're
that's
just
wrong.
saying it because
You
the
have
Democrats
nothing to say
misled
to any
and
of those
said.
14 things,
No,
my
you're
friend.
just repeating
Nothing.
Democrats. That's all you're doing. Not repeating Trump.
You've
You're
got
repeating
nothing to say.
Democrat
Your
talking points,
man is
and that's what
hiding
you
at
always
Mar-a-Lago
do.
because he knows he's going to lose.
He's
I'm
going to
sorry,
win
have you
big,
met
and he's
with
going to
him?
blow
Did
guys
he
like
tell
you
you
away
that?
with all your
You
derangement.
know what, Pat? It's unfortunate that you can't put up a real candidate, okay? But he's going
We have a
down in
great
November.
candidate who's going to make America great, not
No,
some
you
radical
don't.
left
No, you don't.
goofball who never did
He's
anything.
doing
Never
favors for
did
his
anything.
loan officer,
Hey.
Vladimir Putin, and he's going down, okay?
I'm so shocked, Tom. An intelligent guy like you, and you support
My name's
somebody
Chris.
like
I'm
her.
not Tom.
That's the
okay?
best
My
you can
name's
do.
Chris. Tom
That's
is
the
the other
best you
panelist
can
on
do.
here,
Give me a
okay?
break.
I'll be happy to put a name tag on.
Quiet. God, you people are making me nauseated. Can you please? We agreed in advance. We wouldn't be cutting each other off like that because our great audience, consisting of tens of thousands, sound like Trump, tens of thousands of viewers. cannot hear you when you're all screaming. Now we're going to take it.
I apologize, Richard, but you got to break in sometimes, and somebody wants to keep talking. That's their problem.
All right, stop, Chris. Do not respond. We'll be back in a moment. Here's Howard, the voice of Squirrel.
Thank you, Rich. You know, the way some people drive these days, auto accidents are on the rise. And if your car has been in an accident, the insurance companies cannot tell you where to take your car. That's why more and more people are trusting their auto repairs and auto maintenance to leading edge auto body and mechanical repair. They work on all makes and models, and they offer free pickup and delivery anywhere in the Baltimore area. So give them a call at 410-433-6433 or visit them at 5807 Falls Road in the heart of Mountain Washington. They make your car look and run like new again. And you know, Baltimore is one of the best diner towns in the country. And the most popular of them all are the Double T Diners, who just won the Reader's Poll in the Baltimore Sun as the best diners in Maryland. TT means totally terrific. For breakfast, lunch, or dinner, the Double T menu offers you so many choices, you're going to want to order everything on the menu. With locations on Route 40 West, Perry Hall, White Marsh, Annapolis, Pasadena, and the EC Diner in Ellicott City. Plus, Monday nights are lobster night at By the Docks in Middle River, all part of the Double T family. Now back to you, Rich.
All right, guys. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to talk a little more about the presidential race. Then we're going to talk about this terrible situation involving a young man who died working with and for the Department of Public Works in Baltimore City. That is a big breaking local story. But first, about Tim Walz, he's considered, now this is by the Trump people, to have, he has broad appeal to the Democrats, receiving congratulations when he announced or was selected from Bernie Sanders, Joe Manchin, AOC, and former, this is a surprise, former Maryland Republican governor and candidate for the U.S. Senate seat being vacated by Ben Cardin. Larry Hogan, speaking about Walz, said, "We had the chance to work together as fellow governors, and while we come from different parties, I have always appreciated his dedication to public service." The Trump campaign calls Governor Walz a dangerously liberal extremist who pretends to support Americans in the heartland, but when the cameras are off, he believes that rural America is mostly cows and rocks. Shannon, you have a comment?
You know, this election is a very interesting one and very challenging. You know, I hear folks that are very, very partisan, but I try to look at policy and people. And when I look at the Democratic ticket, I wonder, so recently there was a Rules Committee convened. Who chaired that? I can't remember at the moment. I believe he's now the candidate for vice president. Questions about a service record. There are just questions everywhere. I recently saw a piece with Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris, doing an interview with an organization, outlet called the Breakfast Club, where she talked about her frequent use of marijuana, and because her family was from Jamaica, and the statement from her father that came from that. When I look at people, I look at not only what they say and what they do, but I look at how they treat their family. When your father is calling for your whole family to distance themselves from you for racial bias politics, that says a lot about a person's character.
Chris, Tom, one of you two, and then we're going to move on to the other story because it's a breaker.
Well, Tom, you want to?
Well, you know, you can nitpick these small things and try to make them much bigger the way others do, but you have to keep coming back to the fundamentals here. Our country needs a lot of change.
Family support is not a small nitpicky thing.
Pardon me?
Family support is not a small nitpicky thing. When you don't
Tommy's
have your
point is-
family, the people that know you the best, when they distance themselves from you, that says a lot about a person's character. Don't belittle that by saying that's a small nitpicky thing. That's a big thing. This country is built on family, on community. And when your own family doesn't support you, it says a lot, and there's no way you can spin that.
Chris, 30 seconds. We've got to move on.
Absolutely. And there's nobody's family that are hiding in Miami Beach named Jarrett or Ivanka. No one's hiding from Trump in that regard. But listen, Walz is a Midwestern guy. He's Coach Walz. He's lovable, he's affable, and that scares the heck out of the GOP. And frankly, he is pro-family, not progressive. And when you hear that he's passed laws that favor childcare, paid family leave, and school lunches, that doesn't anger people. That makes people think he cares about families and children. And that's what's going to make him a successful VP candidate.
All right, we're going to stop here. We've got to get to the Department of Public Works. I think I'll bring Howard back, finish up our commercials so we can spend the rest of the program talking about the disaster and the tragic death of Bernard Silver. Howard.
Yeah, thanks, Rich. The way some people, wait a minute. Hold on 1 second. Let me get the right one up. You know, Richard and I are proud to represent the law firm of Barry Glazer. Barry always goes the extra mile for his clients, whether it's been a personal injury, medical malpractice, or nursing home neglect. Barry and his staff, that includes an in-house doctor and nurse, make no apologies for getting top dollar from the insurance companies. His clients are his best advertising. So next time you need a lawyer, give Barry Glazer a call at 410-547-8568. He gets results. Tell him Richard Sher sent you. You know, and also there's a huge article in Baltimore Magazine's current edition about Barry, which is well worth the read. And also for special occasions, group get-togethers, or just date night, Pappas restaurants and sports bars belong on the top of your list. Enjoy the award-winning crab cake, or as Richard calls it, the fab cake, and a great selection of steaks, seafood, and other mouth-watering treats. Pappas is Oprah's favorite, and they ship their crab cakes all over the country. 4 locations, including their newest sports bar and restaurant in Bel Air. Pappas food, service, and atmosphere, second to none. Back to you, Richard.
Okay, Howard. Well, this is really a sickening story. Baltimore's Department of Public Works is under investigation after the heat-related death of 36-year-old Ronald Silver II. He was on the job as a solid waste worker this past Friday. He became deathly ill. The temperature felt like 105 degrees. Silver knocked on Gabrielle Avendano's door in the 2000 block of Guilford Avenue. She gave him water. He asked for water to be poured all over him. She did that. And she called 911. Meanwhile, the DPW truck driver was on the phone calling his supervisor, not 911. Then medics arrived. They treated Silver at the scene, rushed him to Union Memorial Hospital where he died. Maryland Governor Wes Moore has called for a full investigation. Who wants to lead this off?
I think it's my turn, Richard. I want to say this very briefly. Tom said that Governor Walz cares about people, and he does. The only people he doesn't care about are the 3,000 people and police injured in Minneapolis while it burned. That's the only people he doesn't care about. But this thing, I don't know, does this surprise anybody under the management and leadership of Brandon Scott? I mean, the education department is a wreck and a failure. The police department and criminal justice in the city is a wreck and a failure. And does it surprise us? How many times have we had problems with public works? How many leaders have we had in public works? There's an old saying by Harry Truman, a great Democrat, the buck stops here. This mayor, they had a chance to get rid of this guy. They made a mistake.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I don't disagree with Pat. I think he's right on the mark about that. And especially the specific issue is so easily fixable. It really is. You're talking about having cold water and suitable property for these people when they're out to be safe, to have shade, to have cold water, and when they come back, to have a suitable locker room and so forth to change in. And when you look at the photos of the locker rooms, it's repulsive. And a quick way to fix it if they don't have the money, go to the outside companies, Deer Park with water and other companies that have the facilities to redo the buildings, and do advertising on the sides of the trash trucks that are driving up and down the streets to pay for the free water and other items that are being used there. And I'll just add this quick thing. The Biden administration proposed some OSHA regs to avoid this very thing, and 5 states already have this in place: California, Colorado, Minnesota, Oregon, and Washington. And I really think that should be on Governor Moore's agenda for the next legislative session.
I want to say that Ronald Silver's tragic death comes, and this is ironic, just days after Baltimore's Inspector General, Isabel Cumming, who released a scathing 46-page report for what she calls inexcusable working conditions at 8 DPW yards. And she took her staff to see many of them. At the Cherry Hill Reedbird Yard, no access to cool drinking water, as Chris said. No proper cooling facilities. At another DPW facility, Cumming found only hot water running in the locker rooms, a fan that barely worked, an air conditioner that could go only as low as 84 degrees. At the Bowleys Lane facility, Cumming reports, quote, the men have to ask for toilet paper. They have to ask for toilet paper because it's not readily available. That's just the way they operate, she says. Now, go ahead, Tom, react to some of this.
Somewhere the ghost of William Donald Schaefer is spinning around in frustration. I think we're all in agreement here. It's not really a controversial situation. Baltimore City is a living, breathing disaster. And I don't think that anybody in city government who stands for this or who doesn't go to the newspapers and start screaming is worth their salt. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. Baltimore is a magnificent city, or at least it used to be, but they can't be wondering why people are leaving in droves when this kind of situation is the norm.
Well, Brandon Scott said his administration has committed more than $20 million to renovate DPW facilities over the next 3 years. But the Inspector General, Cumming, says, quote, we need to fix these basic needs right now. A young man died because of this. And anyway, Shannon, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts could finish out the rest of the show. Number one, Brandon Scott is a perfect example of what bad leadership looks like. He has said he didn't create these problems, he inherited them. But let's look at this for a second. This is a young man, our mayor, who has been in City Hall for over 10 years as a clerk, as a councilman, as city council president, and now as mayor. And you're telling me in all of that time, when city council's been asking about these facilities and this, that, and the other, you didn't know? If that is true that he didn't know, then we should be even more concerned with him being mayor. That's number one. Number two, the fact that we have people that are employed by the city working in subhuman conditions is akin to the second coming of slavery at the hands of Brandon Scott. You have people that have to ask for toilet paper, for water. You don't have common sense to understand that, okay, it's hot. It's hotter than it's been here. So we need to do more to make sure that our employees not only can do a good job, but can stay alive. Brandon Scott said at a news conference, well, it's been hotter than it's ever been. Well, if you know that, then you should have a plan in place to be able to keep people safe.
Patrick Moran, president of AFSCME, that's the union that represents the DPW workers, American Federation of State, County, Municipal Employees. Quote, the toxic culture at DPW must be gutted, referencing alleged bullying hazing and intimidation from DPW management. One DP worker saying, quote, "They treat us just like the jobs we do, like trash." Pat, I saw you nodding in agreement with the good Reverend.
Well, I agree with everybody, to be honest with you. The fact of the matter is that last year, I'm sorry, I think it was 4 years ago, there was a recall petition on the ballot and it did not make it. That's what we need in Baltimore City. We need a recall petition. You know, he can find 16 million or $21 million for Bramble to build a nice little office park in West Baltimore, but he can't find the time to fix what's going on under his responsibilities. These people are his responsibilities. Now, this guy's going to get hold of a good attorney. We have two on this show, and I have some if you need them. And he's going to sue the city, and the taxpayers are going to pay a couple of $1 million because of Brandon Scott's inability to be a good mayor.
Tom, you're our legal expert. We have 1 minute left to go.
Talking to me, Richard?
Yes, I was, sir. I'm so sorry. I said,
Now, seldom if ever have I seen the entire panel unified in this kind of a context. I mean, what else can you say? Everybody has said things that are the total truth. I don't know how individually it is, but certainly the buck stops with the mayor. I mean, what else can be said? And to allow this kind of situation to fester is unconscionable.
all right, listen, I want to thank you guys. It was an excellent discussion, good debate, and you're nice people. And we are located at squareoff.net. We've been on the air. Now we're in our 41st year in the Baltimore media market.
Wow.
So that's good. How about that? How about that? So we're at squareoff.net. Pat, I want to thank you, Shannon Wright, Tom Minkin, and Chris Kennedy, and of course, Howard, the voice of Square Off. Tell your friends we're at squareoff.net, and we'll see you next week when once again we square off. Have a very safe week. Bye-bye.